I've now got paint everywhere in my house. It just ends up everywhere.
Andy McVeigh is a primary school teacher and Leeds United supporter from Burley, but most people don't know him for teaching their kids.
I'm going to do another exhibition soon, so I've been doing loads of canvases for that, and there's like shirt ones, like retro birdie ones and stuff, and I sell loads of those because that's kind of, you know, I don't know, it's kind of universal, that one maybe.
Andy is an artist with no formal training and no artistic background. His palette consists of discounted tins of paint. The streets of Leeds' industrial hub Beeston are his canvas.
I started doing it a couple of years, well, maybe about 3 years ago. My friend to cover up all the tagging and graffiti in our area that was really sort of bringing the area down and stuff. And we did kind of just paintings, flowers, trees and stuff to cover it up, thought it looked nice.
Dubbed the Burley Banksy, owing to his roots and artistic ingenuity, fame amongst his fellow supporters has taken Andy somewhat by surprise.
I have grown men, you know, wanting selfies with me now. What's all that about? You know, you get to my age and suddenly people want a selfie with you. I'm not Kim Kardashian, do you know what I mean? I don't understand. It's just bizarre.
There, it is done. It's quite satisfying. Takes a long time, takes sort of 3 trips, but I'm quite pleased with this one, and it's nice to know that, well, hopefully Leeds fans will appreciate it on the way to the match as they're walking down the stadium. And kids, I'm hoping kids will really like this one. They'll be able to take a selfie, and kids love Alioski because he's such a crazy character.
But it hasn't been all plain sailing. Andy has encountered an anonymous vigilante group, Leeds Residents Against Graffiti. Local journalist Daniel Sheridan first came into contact with the group when they responded to one of his pieces, celebrating Andy's work in the community.
Basically, they first wrote into the Yorkshire Evening Post at the time, and the message was directed at me because I'd written the articles in the first place. And I kind of took it as a bit of an empty threat at the start and didn't really think anything of it. And then obviously when it did happen, I had to kind of get in touch with Andy and break the news as such that they'd covered some, and I couldn't believe it. But I think it was just a strange way of doing it, especially with the 90% of the reaction being positive.
Leeds United legend Gary Speed was a hero to Andy and many Leeds supporters, but sadly passed away in 2011.
When the vigilante group painted over his boxes, people were really upset, like people in the Kirks and Burley community and Leeds United fans. One of the things Andy was particularly upset about was that they painted over the Gary Speed box on what would have been his 50th birthday. So that was a particularly hurtful act. But actually it's all turned out really well in terms of raising the profile of Andy's work, getting him formal permissions, getting him more work.
Dictionary definition of graffiti is art without permission. So it's been an interesting experience this to me. You could paint the Sistine Chapel on here, and if you haven't got permission, it's classed as graffiti and criminal damage. I always had permission to do mine. So no matter what I did, technically it wasn't graffiti. I'd like to think this isn't graffiti, I'd like to think this is a form of art, hopefully. Although I don't class myself as some incredible artist.
I think it's brilliant personally. I mean, obviously being a Leeds United fan myself, it's great, and to the walks to the ground, but whenever I've been to matches, you see people with their children stopping by the work. It creates a lot of buzz on social media, and it's one of those positive kind of aspects.
For me, graffiti is tagging on people's houses, on people's properties without permission, making things look worse, and I hope that at least my stuff makes things look a little bit better.
But dissenting views towards Andy's work don't just come in the anonymous form. Some companies are hired to rid public property of street art.
Graffiti art is done by a commissioned and authorised graffiti or a street artist in a commissioned and authorised area. Graffiti vandalism, however good it might be, is always done, in my humble opinion, by an uncommissioned, unauthorised illegal who's playing his trade to a wall that he's not got permission. You might really like that piece of street art, that piece of graffiti art, but you probably don't want it on the front of your house, Andy's work could possibly fall into that category. You might really like Leeds Football Club and think that's the best thing opposite your house, but then you might not be a Leeds supporter and might think that's the worst thing opposite your house.
Responses from residents have been overwhelmingly positive. The support for Andy's work is enormous.
The practice called Burley Banksy is great because Burley is part of the Coastal Ward. It's on all his boxes. But also they just really brighten up the area. They're just lovely and they're really well looked after. Recently they do get tagged occasionally and somebody tagged one of them and then a different person, not Andy, had touched it up, which he was really, really pleased about because it meant people other than him in the community looking after his boxes.
You know, there's been messages from Argentina and Norway and Scandinavia. There's Philadelphia Whites have got my work up in their local where they watch the games and stuff. And I was quite naive. I didn't realise the reach of social media because I'm not on Instagram, I'm not on Facebook. I hate all that. It's been quite surreal that some normal fella from Burley who spends his Tuesday nights painting boxes in an industrial estate in Beeston, suddenly everyone seems to really, really like it. It's fantastic, isn't it? Because it's my club and it's a labour of love, really, isn't it? And to think that people have said it's part of their match day now.
Local councillor Fiona Venner knows just how important it is to instil community pride in her area.
I think what we want people to have pride in the area, for it not to look really run down, and to just remove as much tagging as possible, deter people from doing it, and help create more beautiful graffiti art like Andy's work.
It wasn't long before Leeds United, the club of his heart, reached out.
When they got ruined, they got in touch by Twitter and said come down. So I had a meeting with James Mooney, who's head of communications, and Angus Kinnear, who's, I think, he's director or something. And they said we all love it and we love seeing it spring up, you know, every day on our way to work kind of thing, and we think it's part of the club now, you know, it's part of the area around the stadium, so we're really keen to get it back up there. And they've been brilliant, the club, you know, they get me and my son into the games now, which I couldn't afford to go to all the games with my son because, you know, football's quite expensive. But I want it for my son more than anything. And the tiny bit of me thinks if he sees my art in the stadium, maybe he'll think, that's my dad's, it's quite cool.
Andy's passion for art was born out of a family trauma, his way of dealing with the difficulties and challenges his life posed.
Would I have been inclined to do this 3-4 years ago when we were still awful and dreadful to watch? I don't know why I did it. I was struggling with other things, we had all sorts of things going on in the family, my sister lost a little girl. And I found it helped me mentally. I was struggling a bit and I found it incredibly therapeutic. I don't know why, you know, I have no idea why. I've never done that before in my life. But we're proud of our club again. I'm giving this to a little lad who's lost his dad. Bless him, he lost his dad suddenly. And Cooper's his favourite player.
There is a palpable sense that despite the meteoric rise of Andy's work and the generous support he's received, that this is only the beginning.
I've got loads of ideas. I've got a little notebook full of them. I've got promotion ideas. I want to do stuff from like when we won the league in '92. I've got tons of ideas. I'm running out of boxes near the stadium now.
From cold nights in Beeston to selling his canvases at exhibitions, it's been a whirlwind 12 months.
It's bizarre, yeah. It was my mate runs the shop, and he said, "You've got to get these on canvases, Andy." And I went, "Really? You really think?" And he went, "Andy, they'll sell, and they're so unique. You know, it's like nothing we've got in the club store." And and as soon as I put one out on Twitter a few months back, I was just inundated. You know, and people were saying, "We want what's on the street on our wall."
And the prospect of working with Leeds United in the coming months is very much a pinch yourself moment for the man whose hordes of memorabilia adorn his home.
I had a meet with him last week, and hopefully I'm going to be doing some work inside the stadium, probably in the closed season. So they're talking about me painting the concourses and stuff and recreating some of those boxes in there and doing some new stuff. So to have my work in the stadium would be, that's amazing, isn't it?
He's battled back against Leeds Residents Against Graffiti's campaign, taken on Twitter fame amongst Leeds United supporters, and as a direct result of his work, met with Marcelo Bielsa and club directors Angus Kinnear and Andrea Radrizzani.
It's been a bit of an adventure, you know what I mean? And it shows maybe that good stuff can happen at any time in life, really, I suppose. Even when it gets to my age. Yeah.